All right. So when you started your law enforcement career, did you?
Oh wait, you didn't finish the story about you going in the house.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So there's like five or six of us. I forget what the call, it was kind of high risk-ish. So we had to clear this house. And one of my coppers like, "Hey, Sarge, you got to come in here." And I'm like, okay. So I go in there and there's a shrine. Now I was raised Irish Catholic and I know what shrines are, whatever. And I'm like, there's a bunch of candles and I don't recognize this saint. And they're like, "Yeah, this is the saint that, makes them think they're invisible to police officers." And he's giving me the whole lowdown. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is different. Haven't seen this before." So, all right, that was my first exposure to it. I saw it in real life. Like, okay, saw it in real time. And I'm like, fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, when you first started in law enforcement, did you think you were going to be a lifer? Did you think you're going to do like 25, 30
Yeah,
years?
I did. 100%. I thought I was going to love every second of it. I rode, yeah, to understand, I did ride-alongs with my dad in like 2000 to 2005,
Okay.
back when policing was still policing. I mean,
Right.
they would, I remember my dad telling me he'd get behind a car and he goes, I'm gonna back off. And I go, why are you gonna do that? He's like, because if they think they have a chance, they'll run. If I'm right up on them and they see those lights, he's like, we're trying to get people to run. We're trying to arrest people, take them to jail. So he'd back off and give them a lot of distance and light them up, and they would be like, you know what? Oh, we're gonna run, and then the chase is on. And whether or not that's accepted by today's societal standards or not, it's a different story. But I find it hilarious. And if they're running, they're running. It doesn't matter if they're like you're allowing them to commit the crime. You
Correct.
know, so
Correct. Yeah. So, you are still in, active law enforcement and you started doing your businesses. You
yeah.
started doing
At that
different
point,
stuff.
like, I'm not active anymore. But in the
Oh,
point,
okay. Now, what were you doing like entrepreneurial while you were
no,
still on
are
the
you
job?
saying I am active right now? Or are you saying when I
No, no, no,
started my
no,
business?
no. When
Oh yeah, okay,
going
yeah.
back, you started, counterculture. You had like a clothing line, and
Mhm.
then, you're doing the podcast. Did you have to get permission from them to do all this?
No, in theory, you're supposed to do a secondary employment memo, which
Correct.
means that if you're going to be getting, it's mainly to make sure that you're not utilizing your leverage as a law enforcement officer to make money,
Sure.
right? That's essentially what it is. You can't go own a security company promising that, yeah, they have law enforcement, right? You can't, there's different things, but essentially that's what they want to make sure of. But no, I wasn't profitable. I wasn't making any money.
Okay.
So I did it about 2 years. I started the t-shirt company, which was if you ever want to make money, do not start an apparel line. That is for sure.
Really?
But it taught me I had no education and no background. I had no time to go to school for a business degree. I had no money to go to school for a business
Yeah.
degree. I was like, I need to learn this industry in real time. I need to learn entrepreneurship in real time. So I started a t-shirt company and it taught me the basics of business ownership. It taught me the basics of business fundamentals. It taught me all those things that they would teach you in a 2 year degree. You can go get
Yeah.
associates in business management. It taught me those things in 2 years, and I'm glad I'm doing it on a scale of $25 t-shirts as opposed to, $1,000 here, thousand because you mess up a lot. You make bad moves, you make bad choices, but I started my apparel line. It's been rebranded last year, but it's essentially Counterculture Inc.
Okay.
Is the apparel side of the business that I own. I own that fully 100%. Me and my wife own all of that. All apparel from Counterculture Inc. is mine. And that's just it's graphic tees for counterculture s people. It's like I call it grunt style with balls.
Okay.
Um, and then, but I had no way of advertising. I had no money. I had nothing. And I
Hmm.
was like, this is back in like 2022, 2023. I was like, I need to get on podcasts. That's what I needed to do. I need to promote this. Couldn't find any podcasts. I just wasn't in the environment. I wasn't in the sphere. So I was in the law enforcement community for sure, but I didn't know of any podcasts, so
Right.
I go, all right, well, I'll start my own podcast just as my own marketing arm, right?
Boy,
So
we have a lot in common, dude, because that's what I did.
oh yeah,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So then the podcast took off and was 20 million times more successful than the apparel line. So then the focus had to shift. Like, okay, well,
Yeah.
this is the more successful company. So, lots of business, just lots of business was learned in that quick, fast 2 year. I think I'm going on 3 years with the Antihero podcast in December. It will be my third
Okay.
year.
Interesting.
So, and then about last year, no, 8 months ago, me and a couple buddies decided to get together and create Counterculture Inc., the media side of the house, where we're an umbrella, we're a media company that houses like-minded, mainly first responder and veteran podcasts. So, you might be like, oh, what's the benefit of being on the network? Well, essentially we do live shows, we do cross promotions. I open my Rolodex to those people. Um, we accept collabs, like our Instagram on Counterculture Inc. The media side of the house has, almost 19,000 followers. So we allow when someone cuts an Instagram reel, we collab with them to expose them to those
Okay.
19,000 people. Just there's tons of different benefits to it, and we just say, hey, we run your RSS feed through our media network, so you still get credit for your views, but we also get credit as a media. So we put your listens into our pot of downloads from
Sure.
Antihero, all of them, and then we don't touch their YouTube. Their YouTube's their thing. We want nothing to do with their YouTube.
Okay.
So that's and then I have other business dealings that are outside of this industry that are just they're smart business moves I was afforded the opportunity to be a part of. But it all started, I still have the picture. I'll send it to you. It all started when I was on midnights and I went and picked up my first batch of shirts at like 9 in the morning, and I got like 3 hours sleep, and I looked like shit. I had bags in my eyes. And I remember holding that, and I told, who was I with? I told whoever I was with, take my picture. Because I was like, this is my first step in entrepreneurship.
That's awesome. I love that. What I did was I started writing books and
Mm.
I wrote under pen names because I didn't want the department knowing about it. Because you'd have to write a memo and the chief would not understand what I'm doing and there would just be a blanket no. So I'm like, well, screw them. I'll just do it on the down low. And the podcast I started, it was to promote a couple of my books because I was going on podcasts and I wasn't getting a ton of traction. So I'm like, well, screw it. I'll start my own. How hard can it be? So, and lately it has just blown up. I
Yeah.
joined I joined a network and that just dramatically changed everything for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is power in that. But going back to the cop stuff, I just wanted to brush on that real quick. I wanted to talk about current stuff, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about, you saved a baby once. And it's like, I love hearing stories like that. Cops do more good than harm. They save
Mhm.
lives every day, and you
Uh-huh.
never hear about it. So tell me about you saving a baby.
I was sitting there. We have 56ing, in case anybody doesn't know what that means. You're sitting window to window with your buddy in your patrol cars. Obviously, where I was, we didn't have partners
Mm,
in the cars. We had patrols. We had zone partners that we worked in the
okay.
same zone together, two separate cars. And we were just hanging out, talking in our area at like midnight, 11 midnight, something like that. And it comes out, hey, baby, unresponsive at 4444 South Rio Grande, which is we were 30 seconds away. So I'm like, oh shit. So we throw it, drive, go, lights and sirens 2 blocks down. When we're pulling in, it came out baby's breathing. Um, uh, the baby was breathing, and they didn't downgrade the call, but it was just an update that the baby was breathing, right?
Okay.
So okay, I go, oh,
You're like,
thank
oh,
God.
cool. Yeah.
I'm pulling in the parking lot. We obviously beat FD just by how close we were, and we're always out and about as cops, so fire departments have to load up and go. So, um, and we also knew that fire trucks notoriously had a very hard time navigating through this apartment complex because it was labeled incorrectly.
Oh,
You
shit.
had to
Okay.
know, you had to know when you're going to 4444 South Rio Grande, you had to know apartment 137 where that was because GPS wouldn't tell you. You just had
Okay.
to know through experience.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of cars in the parking lot. There's trash. It's just a navigational nightmare. And it's all hood. So, there's cut throughs back out. Like, so we get there. I know where it's at. I knock on the door because the baby is breathing, right? And then immediately the door swings open and I walk in, and mom puts the baby right in my belly like a football.
Ha,
And they're
okay.
Spanish, so they're screaming Spanish.
Yeah.
And my partner at the time was a female Hispanic girl. So I had the baby. No, there's no time. So I've never done CPR on a baby in my life. So and it's like looking blue. So I go and I sit down on the couch and she's like, okay. And she's going, remember, put it on your forearm. All right, now do this. And so she's walking me through it and I'm actually doing the actions.
Yeah.
And the baby barfs all over my boots. You hear the splash. And then it started crying. And
Oh, that's awesome.
so we give it back to mom. I'm like, if mom, obviously mom's trying to get it. So we give, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not an EMT. I only know
Right.
how to do CPR. That's it. And stop massive hemorrhaging. That's all I know how to do. So, I go outside real quick to check and see, I can see FD trying to navigate through. I can see the red lights,
Yeah.
and they're just trying to get through because people double park. It's the
Sure.
hood. They don't care.
Right.
So they finally get there. And then I go about my night. Like we always say, you go to the next call.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
there's definitely positives that are they weigh on you because you're thinking, what if I didn't save that baby?
Yeah.
This is a lot. Like anybody else in the world, if you were working at the grocery store and you gave CPR to a baby, you're probably going home for the rest of the day. Like you saved that baby's life. Like they're gonna be like, hey, go home. Like
Yeah.
your day's done. What you just did, your day's done. As a cop, you don't. You go. I'm
No.
sure I went chased somebody on foot that night. I'm sure I made a dope arrest, or I'm sure I fucking got in a scuffle after that. Well, it was my buddy James who goes, does the supervisor know about this? And I was like, no, my dumbass put in call notes, CPR given, baby's breathing, no report, medical only. Well, supervisors don't read that all the time, especially when it came out on the radio, the baby's breathing. As a
Yeah. You
supervisor,
just
you're
think, oh, okay,
listening.
cool.
You know every call out there. You know which
Right.
ones you need to stay on top of.
Exactly.
Baby's breathing, cops show up, and then and then sometimes, and it got very crazy. We're talking two hot calls going on at the same time, one
Mm,
poor sergeant at night, like,
right.
so um, she just didn't read the call notes. And so I went on about my merry way. My buddy James is like, dude, he's a great dude. And he was like, better you than me, dude. He's like, that's my biggest fear. I do not want to go to a baby call because I'm afraid of the outcome. And and we all feel that way. I never wanted
Sure.
that. I never wanted to. And he goes, did you? Is anybody tracking this? And I go, I don't know. I don't think so. He put me in for an award, and then they went back and they were like, holy shit! Like, and so I got a medal of merit or something like that. It's
That's
hanging on my
great.
wall. Yeah,
Good.
that was probably the best call ever.
As well, you should. And, to backtrack even a little bit more, everybody sees SWAT teams, they see, like the BDUs and the helmets and the long guns. And it's like, oh my gosh, but they actually save more lives than take lives. That's what people don't understand.
Yeah,
And cops in general, they save a zillion more lives than they have ever taken. But that just gets brushed over. And it's so
yeah.
sad. And we're talking about, like law enforcement today, as we're doing this, it's October 9th, and all the tobacco that's going on in Chicago right now. And for me, I was born in Chicago. I was there till I was a freshman in high school. So mom and dad still live in one of the suburbs. So I go down there about once a month and I see what's going on. And it's incredibly disturbing to me where you have federal law enforcement agencies, it's ICE, calling for help. They're under attack. And the dispatcher at first is like, her heart's in the right place. She's like, okay, stand by, blah, blah, we'll get. Then it's like per 999, which I believe was the patrol chief.
What's the difference between chief of police and patrol chief?
They have a superintendent that's over all of the
And then
department.
they have division chiefs.
Correct. There's going to
Okay.
be, like admin chief, there's going to be administration chief, and then patrol chief, and probably
Detective, yeah,
investigations
yeah.
chief, that kind of thing. So per patrol chief, you know, you're told to stand down, do not respond. And every cop that has is worth anything is like, no. If one of, and I know you've talked about this before, and no matter what you think of that person, personally or whatever, you have to go help them. There is no question.
Yeah.
You just have to. And now they're trying to cover their tracks. The superintendent had this great speech of how, it's like if you box in law enforcement, no matter who they are, you are going to have to accept the challenge, the consequences. If you fire at, law enforcement, of course, they're going to fire back. You're going to be
Yeah.
dead if you do things like this. But it was his orders, supposedly, that saying it's like, no, absolutely not. And then you got the mayor who has this super low approval rating now, saying it's like we're gonna have ice-free zones in Chicago. There's no such thing. He doesn't
No,
have
you
that
can't do
authority.
that. Yeah.
But it's incredibly disturbing to me that this is even being discussed. No matter what you think of politics or whatever, if a cop is calling for help, you got to go.
Yep. Oh, that's how I know the Brotherhood's dead. Is because that shouldn't even be a thing. That shouldn't even be a thing. That
Well,
that
I I've got a quick story. This is back from like 20 years ago. We had a copper on early shift. We called him Backup Bob. He wouldn't self-initiate anything, but he was always there to back you up. And he wore gloves to everything. And we're like, what are you? Whatever. He was a bit of an odd duck. And cell phones were a new thing. He calls the district station. I'm in pursuit in my personal car of a car that was doing donuts at this one intersection. And I'm chasing him right now. I already called dispatch. Could you have somebody come out? I'm going to be going right by the district. He's stopping. So we're at roll call and Sarge is like, yeah, backup Bob needs help. Okay. So the first cop that responds, what happens is he's still in uniform. He's in his personal car. He had like a Ford Ranger, if I remember correctly. And he's like, just stay here. There's going to be some police officers and squad cars. You're going to get a ticket today, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, flips the bird, starts taking off. He jumps in and tries to get the keys out. So now he has become Windsock Bob. He is no
yeah.
longer Backup Bob. He will be forever known as Windsock Bob because he gets dragged down the street about a block. He lets go, boom, 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 boom. The first cop on that scene was messing around with his girlfriend. So,
Oh
they
man.
hated each other. They
Yeah.
hated each other. And the cop that went to help him, he's looking down on him on the ground. He said, bet you didn't think I'd be the first guy to back you up, huh?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. No
but
matter
that's,
what, it's another badge.
yes. So no matter what you think of them, no matter how many disagreements or whatever, I hear stuff like that and it breaks my heart.
Well, I mean, we bleed blue. We're fucking black,
Yes.
Hispanic, white, yellow, fucking gay, women, men. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. And that now is gone too. I mean, when we were in when we were in the military, my platoon was all kinds of races and stuff, and we all partied and hung out because we all were in the platoon together. We all bled the same blood, and
Yep.
you'd think in cop work, but as soon as you start giving some more than others, it creates that divide. Well, the we need, I mean, it's been around forever, but affirmative action, no matter what they want to call it and what part of the year they're in, but it does create when I have to sit there and say you only got this position because you have a fucking vagina. You only got this position because you're black. How was that? I mean, so I'm not supposed to say that. So then I'm supposed to go, okay. And of course, they're not going to respond to that. They're being praised for everything. They're the worst fucking cop out there. They're the worst cop out there, and they're getting bumped up, and they believe it. They start believing it. Like, oh, I'm this great. Like, no, dude, it's because of this, this, and this, and that's what creates the divide.
Yeah, what I see is that, and especially when you start going up to command staff, now all of a sudden, it's like, how does this look? We have a chief now that he doesn't want to be there. Yeah, I mean, there was a big whoop-de-woo with he went to Austin. He was offered the job in Austin, and he got greedy. And Austin's like, "Pff, F you, we don't need you." There's a whole story behind that. But he banned the thin blue line. You could not have the thin blue line in any district station on any kind of piece of paper, on the wall, on anything. He said
Yep.
that's racist. He's a black guy. And I just hate to see that going on. And he listed his command staff and for a news story, and he put down their ethnicity next to them. Now all of a
Man,
sudden,
now it matters.
that one female inspector is now Native American. She never talked about that. Nobody ever knew. We're all scratching our heads. And it's like, she is? Yeah, like Elizabeth Warren Native American.
Yeah,
Like
right.
1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10, and
Yep.
it's like, I guess, yeah. So now all of a sudden that became so important where before it was like, can you do the job?
Yep.
Are you good at the job? And that's what it should be, but oh well, that's another conversation for another day.
Right.
So you decide to walk away from law enforcement after being in there for 9 years. That's huge. Most people don't do that. What was going through your head?
I didn't want to be there anymore. I'm not going to work a job or a profession. I don't want to be there anymore. Other people can do that. That's on them. I'm not nowhere close to retirement. I get if I was 4 years out, sticking it out, but I wasn't happy. And I had been at two different places. So I know it wasn't the
Yeah,
place I was at. I didn't like my job anymore. I gave everything I had to the job. It started fucking me over the last couple of years. I was like, you know what? This isn't for me. I have a very, I have the brain and I have the personality to be an entrepreneur. So I started that and I did both for 3 years. My passion projects that I built into businesses and law enforcement. And at one point, it was just an easy walk away.
wow. That's tough. That is very tough. Is your dad still alive?
Yeah,
What did he say?
he was commending me. He surprised I lasted as long as I did.
Wow. And
Yeah.
how about your wife? Yeah, it's like, how are we paying the bills, honey?
Oh, yeah, she was worried, but I had to convince her that, I had to show her that this is the numbers with the businesses, and she's
Yeah,
heavily involved in the businesses, so she knew, she saw them. Here's the thing: you don't rely on one business to pay the bills. You build three, and then they pay the
sure.
bills. So if one starts going under, it's not, oh my God, we're not going to be able to pay the bills. It is what it is. You have to think about things like healthcare. You have to
Yeah,
think about things. Retirement. All these things. Life insurance. You have to pay for those all out of pocket now. Now you had to pay a little bit when you were with the agency or whatever PD, but it was significantly cheaper. We're talking thousands of dollars a month now that go to those things that didn't go to that before.
right, right. That's
So you
that's
have to
huge.
you have to attribute that into your financing when you leave.
Yeah,
But if you're not going to work at it, if you're not going to spend double duty for 3 years, going and learning a new trade, going and getting a better degree, going and doing something else, you have to work double duty for years before you can leave the job. And if you're not willing to do that, then just sit at the job and rot away. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. People got into this job, and if you have a family that you got to support, that's number one. So
yep,
you're gonna have to stick with that job.
yeah. There's an old saying that, cops fall in love with the job and don't know what to do when the job doesn't love them back.
Yeah, you
What is,
fucking quit
yeah, that's what it meant to
or
you.
retire early. That's what I did. I retired early. That sounds
Okay.
better than quitting.
So you were probably somewhat vested then. So when you
Yeah,
hit a
yeah.
certain age, you'll
I had
get
nine
something.
years and 9 years
Okay,
as a cop, a little over 9 years. So
sure. So what would your advice be to a new copper or somebody that wants to get into law enforcement?
go into it thinking it's like a stint in the military. I went in the military knowing I was going to do 4 years. Right. Go into it like that. If it lasts longer, it lasts longer. But don't go in thinking this is your career because there's statistically speaking, it's probably not. If you look at the numbers. So that's like saying, it's not under God. So you can't go into your marriage, although most statistically speaking, most marriages fail. It's a marriage under God, and you can't go into it like that. If it fails, that's bad. That's really bad. But you're not married to the job. It's a fucking job, and you provide a service and you get paid for it. It's transactional. So be prepared for that not to work out. And go in and have fun. Do 5 years when you're young. Any first responder, be a firefighter, be a cop. It doesn't take 4 years. It's not like a doctor where you got to go to school for 8 years and you're finally a doctor. It takes 6 months of training. In fact, in the state of Florida, it takes more hours mandated by the state to become a fucking cosmetologist than it does a law enforcement officer. Fact, dude. So you're not investing too much of your time to become this cop. Before you know it, you're out on the within less than a year. Probably when you apply in less than a year, you're running around with your buddies grabbing bad guys. Right? It's just you're out of FTO. Go have fun. Always have a backup plan.
All
That's
right.
just my number one. That's my number one suggestion to anybody.
What would you say to your kids if they want to be cops?
Same thing my dad said, but the more you tell a kid you don't want them to do something, the more they're going to do it. So
Yes.
you send them in with what they need to know, and that's what my dad did. He said the job. I mean, he's not a cynical person at all, but he said, do not essentially what you said. Do not get married to the job because the job will fuck you. It's a
Yep.
job. Don't waste time with your family. Don't pick the job over your family. It's like anything. Sure, if you're working at something, yes, you got to work at it harder. If you're training for SWAT, if you're studying for an exam for the promotion, if you're studying to make to get selected for this particular unit, absolutely. You know, there's times where you got, but that'd be the same in the private industry. You got it every night, but overall, your job should not be chosen over your family.
I totally agree.
And
Where
we're all
I
guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. It's almost like we do it and then we ask the next generation, please don't do this. And they do it because you're just so proud of the job you do.
well, I saw my dad worked in a dairy forever, and he worked second and third shift when I was growing up. I never saw him. I
Mhm.
absolutely, and but he worked his ass off. He worked every weekend for overtime. Didn't see him, and I told myself when I start having kids, I'm not going to do that to my kids. So I stayed on late shift for 13 years, midnight to 8, instead of working early shift, which was 4 to midnight. And I promoted, etc. And when I first started, I thought being a motorcycle cop, because I love motorcycles, or being on SWAT would be the way to go. But you would have to start on early shift for both of those. And I'm like, well, I'm in this super busy district as a patrol cop. I'm having a lot of fun doing all this, crazy stuff. I don't need to be on a specialty unit. I'm just going to do this. And then I got to the point where I could have tried out for something like that. And I'm like, you know what? That ship has sailed. All the wind is out of my sails for that. And at least I was the one who I went to every field trip that my kids went on. I was chaperoning stuff left and right. I was volunteering at the school, and I got to have time with my kids that the guys, yeah, you're a SWAT operator, you're a bike man, you're doing this, you're doing that. And they had no clue what their kids were up to in school. Zero. And so,
Yeah.
same thing with the detective bureau. It's like, yeah, I'm a detective. I spend all day at work and then I've got court, blah, blah, blah. And they had zero idea what their wife and kids were up to. So at least I can say that, you know what? I did sacrifice sleep, of course, but at least I got to do stuff with my kids. I know them, and that will pay spades later on in your life. It really will. So let's talk about your entrepreneurial spirit. Where did that come from?
I just think I always had it.
Were you like selling? Did you have a lemonade stand when you were a little kid? You were always like
No,
selling stuff, or
no, I was, I, no.
wow.
I just think I always had it. I'm the type of personality that, my quote in life is you got to kill me or fire me to stop me. That's
All
it.
right.
You got to
Where do you
kill me
think?
or fire me.
Where do you
And
get that
so when
drive
you're
from, do you
your
think?
I don't know. I think it's like I got a really punk rock spirit. I was in punk rock bands growing up.
Sweet.
So I feel like, the more you tell me that won't work, okay, I'll show you how to work. Hey, you can't say that on a podcast. I said it. You can't say that on a podcast and be a cop. I said it. I like I don't know. People saying like you can't do that. You know that, right? I thrive off that. Absolutely, I can do that.
All right.
So
So, how do you balance your work life and family now that you're no longer in police work, but you're probably working the same amount of hours or even more with your own businesses?
no, I work significantly less because when I was working 50, 60 hours a week as a cop, and then I was turning around and doing 20, 30 hours a week on my
Oh,
businesses. So I
okay.
actually work significantly less. I wake up, I enjoy coffee with my wife, I take my kids to school.
Nice.
Um, I try to get all my meals in. I've been kind of lazy about that lately, but I get a workout in, and then I go and, you know, kick off kick off my day around noon. I'm very active. I coach sports. I do all this, that, and the other thing with my kids. Um, So, I mean, I'm very fortunate, and that's the life I wanted, and so, and I take it very seriously. I take it, one day this could all be gone, and I could have to go stock shelves again. I mean, I still have my family, like you said. I never lost connection with them,
Yeah,
so they don't care.
interesting. So the Anti-Hero Podcast, how did that start and why did you start it?
Yeah, it's the same reason I told you is I needed to market my apparel line, so I was like, I'll start my own marketing arm. And I'll make it something completely different. Like if I made ABC Apparel, I'm not going to start the ABC Apparel podcast. That's just it doesn't. So you got to start the 123 podcast where it's a totally different theme, a totally different brand, and then you say it's sponsored by 123 Apparel or
Okay.
whatever I said before, and then that's how they go. And then all of a sudden you start selling shirts because people like what you're saying, and you're getting views and you're getting downloads, and you're your primary sponsor. And then you got other people wanting to sponsor it, and then you got this, that, and the other thing, and then that's just kind of how it came to be.
Well,
I'm a very big on the anti-hero spirit. We're not perfect men. We have a lot of us have bad qualities that we had to took us years to get a hold of, and we're not Superman. We're not sitting there telling people to eat your vitamins and be perfect all day. We're anti-heroes. Our intentions are good, and but we might be flawed in some way. And I think all men in our industry could could relate to that. Nobody's perfect.
absolutely.
We've all had our sins and our struggles, and but our heart's always been in the right place.
Yeah. Where did that name come from? The Anti-Hero Podcast. Did you just dream it up one day or what?
I was on QRF when I was with SWAT at a football game, and I had to make the email address. And once you make an email address, I tell everybody, start an email, make a logo, make an Instagram. Those are the first three steps you need when you start a business, no matter what it is. Email, logo, Instagram, in that order. And I had to make an email, and I knew it was going to last forever. And I think it was, man, I almost called it Step It Up Podcast. How lame would that be? And then one day, I was just sitting there, like I believe God spoke to me and said the Antihero Podcast because I wanted to speak and defend the people in our industry. Romans 13. There's people ordained and appointed by God to do, to enforce the law, and God watches over them. And now, as society's turned their back on those guys, just like much like the Vietnam veterans.
Right.
They went there to serve their country, and society turned their back on them. And now they're turning their back on law enforcement, and so we're that voice for those people. The people that don a badge, that don a flag, that don a uniform, that lace up boots to serve their community and serve their country. You know, they can't always say what they want to say. They can't always say what they need to say. Well, we'll fucking say it.
All right. What do you attributed success to? Because it is very successful.
Just good business decisions. Bringing people on at the right time, covering certain topics at the right time, being ballsy and making big leaps and taking risks, taking chance, being controversial. As much as people don't want to do that, man, my wife hates me when I'm controversial. It brings a lot of haters. It brings a lot of people. We're not backing down in the comments when somebody accuses you of something that's the most outlandish thing in the fucking world, and you tell them to go fucking. I would keep it PG-13, but you tell them to go put their mouth on a fellatio or you know, and you tell them that in the comments section, it brings hate. And you do things, you go against the grain. You do things that no one else does. That's a key component in business when you're trying to, you need to stand out, which means you need to do things that people won't do. And it does bring a lot of negativity with the positivity. So I know she hates that, but that's a huge contributor in my success.
All right. What is your definition of success?
Being happy and making money.
All
And
right.
and the third thing is doing something good, right? So I can sit here and be some tear down podcast and shit all over people. And, that's a topic for a different day when, people want to say that's what anti-hero was for a while. And I have a whole nother argument on that. But, there's people that make a living just causing drama and causing, or just being selfish, like, oh, I want to put out something good that helps people and I can live off and I can be happy. That's it. That's success to me.
That does sound like it. Now you have a partner in crime, Brent, that's on the podcast.
No,
No?
actually, this is the third podcast. He left the podcast back in at the end of August, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so my new co-host is Mike from Copville, and we've rebranded to the Antihero Broadcast, and we go live every Monday morning at 10 a.m.
Okay. Do you do the Thursday Night Live still?
Yeah, we still do that. We're doing that tonight as well.
Okay.
But we're switching to a broadcast format because we got our new co-host Jimmy as well. And man, it's something I've always wanted to do, the one-off, even though it was every week. Scheduling guests and making it a big thing, pre-recorded editing. I was like, I like live shows. They're fun. I've always loved radio shows. I was just at the end of that generation where like Howard Stern, even though he
Sure.
was on TV, I've always loved radio shows, always seemed so fun to me. They seemed fun. And, a 2 hour block, you're tuning in every day because this show is fucking crazy. I love these guys. I resonate with them. They're hilarious. They inform me. They keep me updated. So that's what we're turning into. Right now, the only day we do it is Monday morning. But I believe soon we'll be doing Thursday mornings as well. And then the next step after that will be Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. And then we'll be fun day, at some point we'll be Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
10 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time. And it'll be a fun show. So that's the rebrand. We're now called the Anti-Hero Broadcast, which is very new, by the way. Don't, this is like I think 2 weeks ago we rebranded.
Oh, okay. So 2 weeks ago you rebranded. You have two co-hosts on the
Hmm.
show.
Yeah.
And do you repurpose, so say you do a live, do you repurpose that into a podcast then later that you throw up on Apple and Spotify?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely use the audio for
Yes.
all of our lives. We throw them on Apple, Spotify, whatever, iTunes, whatever, they're on every platform. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So Anti-Hero Broadcast, we're hoping that people come and they stay, it's fun. It's a good time. And Jimmy covers all the veteran stuff because he was in the Army Infantry for 9 years and
Okay.
I was in the Army Infantry for only for 4 years. And Jimmy's very knowledgeable on current events and what's going on. Mike is a huge advocate for law enforcement. He runs the meme page Copville, and he knows all the down and dirty on every corrupt chief, every corrupt department. He
Okay.
the guys love Mike, and I'm just kind of like the orchestrator. I organize everything. I keep the show going. More of a manager, more of a those guys make the show,
Yeah.
and the show wouldn't be anything without those guys. I'm nothing but a shit talker.
Interesting. So how do you get such interesting guests?
Clout.
Okay.
I mean,
Just
it
word of
all.
mouth kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be around for a while. You got to have the views, But I'll
Yeah.
tell you, having guests on, you'll get some egotistical douchebags that think they're the world, and then you'll get some of the guys like that are the most humble dudes ever, like Jay Dobbins, like the
Yes,
most.
I had
He
Jay on
couldn't.
my show.
Yeah, he just like couldn't fathom. Thank you for inviting me. I'm like, Jay, you're Jay Dobbins, man.
Well,
Thank you for
yeah,
coming on our show.
you had Steve Murphy on.
Steve Murphy,
I
he's
love
he's a
Steve.
friend. He lives in the same, just like 20 minutes away from me.
Yep.
Billy Queen, the Donnie Brasco,
Yep.
um, Scott Payne.
All right. So
Um,
let me ask you this. What's the best way to promote your show? If you got a podcast, what do you think is the best way to promote it?
Social media reels. You can't sleep. If you gotta pay someone to do it because you're just not good at it, I get it. I do all the reels for Anti-Hero. Every reel is cut and done by me. I have a very quick. I know how they work. I know, but without social media, it's very, 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 very hard to gain any traction.
Do you ever
So
do
you
paid
got
ads?
no. I've
Okay.
tried for paid ads for other things. I mean, I just don't. Nothing beats organic growth. And
Yeah.
until you've mastered organic growth and until you're ready to take the step into using a marketing firm or something like that, I would just keep it organic, keep it punk rock, keep it, what do they call it? Grassroots.
Yeah.
And then you'll eventually graduate from that. That's the next business move. But you'll know, I'm not saying you, but I'm saying like
Right.
anybody would know it's time to take the next step. I'm making this much money. Obviously, it's not enough money to live off of, but I want to invest this money in the next step in this podcast, whether
Sure.
it be hiring somebody to find guests for you or finding the guests yourselves and saying like, hey, I want to pay you or going in person. That was the hardest. I always knew I knew I didn't want to have a podcast where we weren't in person. I fought everybody on it. I'm like, no. When we started, I had buddies that would help me out, and they're like, dude, just get on Zoom. I'm like, I dabble a little bit in it here and there
Yeah,
because it is stupid to not have people on because they can't come physically. That is stupid to do.
correct.
But basing the whole show, I was like, I want a weekly show that's in person every week. Doesn't matter. And I stuck to that. And that's I think also was a big contributor to the success.
Yeah, that's tough. But
Yeah.
I like the vibe. I like the cigar smoking. I like I'm a big cigar guy, so that resonated with me. And it's very, like you said, grassroots, organic, and you feel like you're just like hanging out with your buddies almost.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the goal, man. That's the goal
Yeah.
with all these shows we're doing now, the new broadcast, the squadcast we do on Thursday nights like tonight. That's the goal, is to make you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
We
And
take call-ins now. We read the super chats on YouTube, like we read them all, and
yeah,
it's a good time.
good for you. What do you see the future for your show and your brand?
Man, just grassroots stuff, man. We're gonna start doing a lot of live shows, FOP lodges, VFWs. We're gonna start taking advantage of
Oh,
live
so you're
crowds.
going on the road, huh?
Yeah, that's still to me is the grassroots way to grab people.
Yeah,
Man, that show was hilarious. Who are these guys? Hey, they go live
sure.
every Monday at 10 a.m. All right, I'll start tuning in, and it's one supporter after another. It's one supporter after another.
All right. Let's start wrapping this up. We've been doing this for a while, and I appreciate your time. You've been exposed to a lot of good and bad stuff. I always like to get philosophical, and you're a deep thinker. Has it pushed you away or towards God or a higher power?
It has definitely pushed me more towards Christ. I accepted Jesus Christ in the summer of 2023 as my Lord and Savior, but I really didn't know that how to be I want to say a good Christian until maybe beginning of this year. It's definitely tested my faith. It's tested when you're gonna give up, and you yeah, just asking God to help you get through something. Don't ask, I'm an advocate. Don't ask God for material. Don't ask God to make more money. Ask God to give you the strength to go out there and get more money. Give me the strength to get through this hard time with my family, and give me the strength to be a warrior and go out there and be able to feed them. He will. He will give you that. Give me the strength to be patient with my wife. Give me the strength to, be patient in these business dealings. Give me the strength to be able to juggle all these things that are making me crumble, and without Jesus and without Christianity, that I would have broken a long time ago. I would have been a sad, sad soul.
I've seen it go both ways, and I'm sure you have too. Guys who have been in the thick of things either gravitate towards a higher power or push, really hard against it. And that's what I've seen. And it always I think it always circles back to the old saying of there's no atheists in foxholes. It's just it's the way it is.
Yeah.
So, all
Yep.
right, is there anything that I missed that you wanted to cover?
No, just anybody that wants to buy a shirt, support it, go to countercultureinkthreads.com, and you can use my anti promo code antihero to save 15% on your entire order. And then tune into the Antihero broadcast on YouTube, Spotify. We go live on YouTube, but it's immediately up in early afternoon. Or Thursday nights, we're on YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern, kicking it with the boys. So check us out. We're on Instagram. We have a website being rebuilt. Our old one we took down because we changed the name, so it was pointless.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah, so we'll have that up, and just hit us up on the social medias.
All right. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you for having me.